welcome to Living Once Twice, a lifestyle design and personal adventure podcast. My name is Justin. Come with me as I'm here to help you chart your course for creating the fulfilling life you desire. Join me as every Wednesday we'll dive into the inspiring guest stories, remarkable science, and useful strategies to help you create the momentum you need to take action towards designing your dream life. Remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Greetings all, Justin here. Welcome back to Living Once Twice. I'm very appreciative to you all for taking part once again in this journey by tuning in. And I hope this season has provided a lot more fuel in the form of stories, strategies, and science as we rewrite narratives, reinvent ourselves, and reimagine the possibilities for our lives. Before I get into today's episode, I want to encourage you all again to follow us on Instagram at Living Once Twice if you haven't already, where I'll be posting more insight, inspiration, and info on upcoming guests this season. But today's a solo episode. It's a very special episode because this one is actually going to be dropping during the week of my birthday. And as I'm going to be turning the page on chapter 35 to chapter 36 when this airs, I wanted to highlight 6 lessons that my 30s have taught me as I reflect on what I've learned thus far as I move from my mid-30s towards the next half of my 30s and on to the big 4-0 eventually. Whether it's the mistakes I've made, the areas that I'm working on growing, and just the intentional way that I want to live and design my life based on the gift of getting older. This entire idea also came from a dear friend of mine, Supreet, who was the guest engineer turned YouTuber on episode 45. It's never too late to begin again. As Supreet did a really great YouTube video on lessons that she learned from her 30s and what her 30s have taught her. So I actually just wanted to take a page out of Supreet's book and offer my own. So this is going to be fun for me, as I'm only sticking to 6 because I'll be 36. So it's just a little bit easier number to highlight there. And I'm hoping that, because there's so many different insights to offer, I'm really hoping that as I go about sharing this in other places, whether it's on LinkedIn and Instagram, others will chime in and just share their own lessons. And hopefully this will be of use to those of you out there who are either under 30 and not in the club yet, in your early 30s. Heck, if you're 35 and beyond, maybe I'm sure a lot of these lessons will resonate with you. And additionally, I just hope that this maybe sparks you. If you already don't, take some time, whether it's your birthday, the end of the year, or some other time, to just reflect on what life has taught you thus far and how you can take that knowledge to live more authentic to yourself, align with your purpose, and just enjoy more peace as you go about living life. So, with that all said, let's just get into it. And I'm going to start with lesson number 1, which is growth requires friction. And that actually comes from a chapter that I read in Brendon Burchard's book about high performance habits. But growth requiring friction, what lesson that I've learned from that is friction can be so many different things, but it's essential for us to realize that we, again, have to get outside of our comfort zone to become who we wish to become and to experience that which we dream or envision experiencing. And that discomfort can be finally signing up for that course to become a content creator, writing and posting that blog post that you've been sitting on, paying for that personal trainer or gym membership to finally get in shape, or having that difficult conversation at work about workload, promotion, whatever it might be, even in a relationship sense, ending a toxic relationship or friendship, or putting yourself out there to begin a new one. All of these things that make us uncomfortable but are necessary for our growth are a sign that we're starting a growth process, especially when we feel that discomfort that comes along with being outside of our comfort zone. So as I reflect on my journey and either the different roles or qualities that I've wanted to embody in life, whether it be an entrepreneur, starting an online business, going into coaching, heck, even the quality of wanting to just heal my past traumas, heal my past insecurities, to develop more self-love, which I'll talk about, and become a healthier person and partner, I realized that the friction, the growth, the friction that I needed required me to do a deeper dive into really the seas of the unknown and discomfort within myself. Now, much of this has been in the last, 2 to 3 years, and it's required me to really stretch myself beyond what I thought I was capable of, ask for help, invest in my own growth through whether it's coaching, therapy, books, different things of that nature, all of which, once again, was uncomfortable, especially on the mental front, because I had my own limiting beliefs about myself and what I was capable of. And to add growth on that personal level, um, which is still continual work, I really wasn't also putting in the work to figure things out or to take consistent intentional action towards how to grow as a person and as a partner. But once again, and then in the recent couple of years, I've started to embrace that friction that comes from growing and wanting to change, which actually brings me to lesson number 2 of my 30s, which is healing is possible. I read something recently that I want to share, and it's this quote that we are all healing from something. We all have struggles that we don't speak about. Now, those struggles can be trauma from your childhood, low self-esteem, broken attachment with family or partners, or some other painful experience that's left a wound in our lives. And these imprints carry along with us, and they can cause us to develop some very unhealthy coping mechanisms, thought patterns, behaviors that not only cause suffering to us, but can cause suffering to those around us, especially those who love us. But with that said, it doesn't mean that we have to live a life anchored in that pain, anchored in our past, anchored in that suffering. We can all heal and become whole again. So to give another quote, when it comes to healing, healing takes courage, and we all have the courage, even if we have to dig a little to find it. If you would have asked me how I would describe myself inside 3 to 4 years ago, my early 30s, not too long ago, I would say that I would describe myself as someone who was broken and can't be fixed. And I hate to admit it, and I cringe saying it now, but that was my truth. Hyper impulsive, insecure, didn't trust myself, immature, ego driven, had no healthy sense of what healthy self-love was inside. And I was hurting, and the relationships around me were hurting as a result. And I did not understand how or to change any of these self-sabotaging thought patterns or behaviors. And once again, it wasn't until these last couple of years of finally hitting a wall where it's like, oh, wait, I can't get through this alone, where I had to finally sit, ask for help, and learn the process of how to heal myself from the inside out. That journey still ongoing, but as I'm going through this process, I've learned that old belief about myself, I'm not broken. Now, I might be a little bent, but I'm not broken. I can take agency over my life, past experiences, decisions I've made, good and bad, learn from them and move forward with designing the best life possible. And you can do the same because, yes, they say hurt people, but healed people heal people. So the next lesson that I want to get into of my 30s is that imagination is everything. And this is something that I could go on for days about, but I'll begin by saying this is that workshop in between our ears, our brains, is a very powerful machine. And the visions, the desires, and the dreams that float through our brains, which oftentimes are something that we might think is not possible, but deep down inside, we cherish and we yearn to experience whatever that vision, that desire, and that dream is. My friends, this reminds me of my favorite motivational speaker, Earl Nightingale. And the video he has on YouTube states that you wouldn't have the desire if you weren't capable of its achievement. So if you think about it, at a time everything was a dream. The light bulb, the phones in our hands, the computer that we're sitting in front of, the businesses that we support, that we work for. Our imaginations, if applied, can lead us to innumerable places, positive places, especially if we feed it information and inspiration as fuel to move in the direction of it. So don't underestimate your imagination, whether you have what it takes to make it a reality, because you do. Don't allow the outside world, work culture, our structured left brain thinking drown out the creative genius that lives inside of you. And to end with another quote, the world needs you to share your gifts and for you to go for your dreams, because there aren't enough people out here in the world that have the courage to go for it. So go for it. Okay, so we're 3 down, 3 to go. So lesson number 4 of my 30s is that I want to share is authenticity doesn't go out of style. I have to credit this to one of my favorite creators, Michaela Alexis, as she told me this a few years ago when I had the opportunity to interview her. And it has stuck with me because you really do have to be 100% apologetically you. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to act a fool, be disrespectful, but that you do have to really learn yourself, your values, your needs, your wishes, your preferences, and develop this unwavering confidence and courage to live and move and express yourself in a way that's in congruence with that foundation. I've admitted this before as a recovering people pleaser, someone who really didn't trust myself, yearned for outside validation, and was not really comfortable either being unliked or out of favor with others. I was too insecure, too fear driven to ask myself these questions. Like, what do you value, Justin? Like, how do you really feel? And more importantly, how do you honor yourself by living in alignment with that and communicating those boundaries, those limits to others to ensure that those values are upheld? I would liken myself to a chameleon. That whole routine of just wanting to blend in, go along to get along, and agreeing to keep the peace. But deep down, none of that feels good, and it's just another way to lose your sense of self. So the 30s for me of learning that authenticity does not go out of style. It's been a journey of defining myself, finding my voice, and then having the consistent courage to stay rooted in what holds to be authentic for me. Still a practice, but I've learned that the discomfort, and Nature Twab talks about this in the book, Set Boundaries, Found Peace, but there's just a discomfort that comes along with these journeys of setting boundaries, limits, just being authentic to ourselves. And it's better to be uncomfortable in the short term, but to have that peace, to feel aligned inside and living authentically to ourselves in the long term. So the 5th lesson of my 30s is one that I'm very excited to talk about, and be sure the future of seasons of this podcast, we're going to really dive into this topic more. But the 5th lesson is self-love cannot be outsourced. The discovery and now active work to practice healthy self-love has been a true game changer for me, but also something you may pick up that I carry a lot of, be honest, like even shame about having to admit for a really long time. I did not know what healthy self-love was or even how to manifest it for myself. I looked outside of me to feed, whether it's that emptiness or that crave of validation. And that could have came from so many different places. And so realizing that self-love is something that can't be outsourced, because I wasn't really rooted in a foundation of it, I wasn't able to say reciprocate it in relationships or know what friendships were healthy or unhealthy for me, or people that were unhealthy or healthy for me, or behaviors and thought patterns that were healthy or unhealthy for me. Too much fog, too much of a foundation not rooted in the the elements, the pillars that create self-love, which I'll go into in another video, or not another video. Well, maybe it'll turn into a video, but in another podcast, I'll talk about some of those elements of what has helped me in my deeper dive into a self-love journey. But going back to just this lesson, being able to understand as a part of the journey of self-love, my insecurities, the roots of my past faults, reclaiming those younger parts of myself that I stored away, but learning how to just relove it all has helped me in that journey. But then also just building a foundation of continual inner integrity, respect, and personal care to then sustain that foundation from the inside allows me to then be able to provide the overfill of healthy love to others in a healthier way than I did so previously. So to all of those of you out there who may be on your own self-love journey of accepting yourself as you're in this very moment, I will just say continue to stay true to just trusting yourself, accepting your perfect imperfectionists, because we're all perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect. And remembering to just continue to put your physical, emotional, and mental well-being first. And once again, the rest of us will get that healthy overflow because your cup is full. So now moving on to the final lesson of my 30s, number 6. And as I mentioned earlier on, there's so many other lessons to get into, but these are just like 6 that really resonate with me for this episode. The final lesson is that time is the most important commodity. This is simple to explain because I'm like, geez, I'm 36. That came fast. So if that's the case, I better be sure to enjoy the ride because there's no telling how fast these next few years are going to fly on by. So I go back to something the great Jim Rohn shared about the seasons in life, and that is there are only so many springs that we all get. So whatever we want to do in life, we need to get to it. Nothing is predictable, as we all know. So these last couple of years, I think for everyone has been a reminder to prioritize what's important in life. And for me now, it's love, it's peace, it's joy, it's freedom. All of those values or pillars contribute towards my own inner fulfillment. And I have different daily and weekly habits and practices to experience them all. But going back to the point of just time, knowing that time is something we can't buy more of. And there is no telling, in my case, I don't know if I'm a young 36 or an old 36 in terms of time remaining on the clock, but I do know I will not get to relive this moment. And so I'm hoping that each day I get to continue to just embrace life's adventures and enjoy sharing this experience of life to the fullest with loved ones and in great community with others. So you and I, once again, we're as young as we're ever going to be in this moment. So I would offer to you whatever is incomplete in your life, on your heart, whether it is launching your own side business, whether it is getting your own health in order, whether it is doing the healing work or making amends with your past or with a broken relationship in your life, even making that move or booking that trip to the place that you've always dreamed of, don't put it off because today's the gift that you've been waiting for since it's all we got. So everyone, those are really the top 6 lessons of my 30s. I know there's so much we learn as we progress through life. So once again, I'm just hoping as I put this episode out, others are going to share lessons and wisdom that they've gained. And as I sat with this, I know I'll be integrating a lot of these themes that have popped up in conversations with future guests. So stay tuned for that as we dive into many areas such as self-love, trusting yourself, healing yourself, healthy relationships, and just owning that authentic spirit of creativity that lives inside each and every single one of you. With that said, that is it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for your presence and tuning in today. Shout out to all of the Libras out there as well, as this is our season. But if you enjoyed this episode, please show your support by sharing the Living Once Twice podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or wherever, leaving us a review on iTunes. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Living Once Twice, or go to the Living Once Twice website, livingoncetwice.com, for more content updates, reaching out to you all through the time and the space that separates us to say, remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Catch you later on Living Once Twice.